So welcome back to A News, welcome back to the studio rather. We just brought you live and rolling coverage from the Davos Economic Forum, and the signing ceremony of the Peace Board, the Gaza Peace Board, is still continuing. It's officially ratified now, and the signing ceremony is taking place. And just moments ago we watched the President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, sign as well, together with the President of Bulgaria there. Now, for more on this, the significance of this announcement and what it could mean on the global stage, I'm joined now in the studio by my colleague Anastasia Levrina, presenter of Inside Politics and Frontline. Anastasia, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there we go, a very much anticipated event there, the announcement of the Gaza Peace Board, and the signing ceremony is taking place as we speak. So a few announcements there by the President alongside the official launch of the Gaza Peace Board. But let's focus on that. In simple terms, what is this board, Anastasia, and why is it being launched outside existing international frameworks? He did actually make reference to the United Nations and said they could have done so much in terms of bringing peace and ending wars. They didn't, but I did. And this last year was one of the best years on record. And it's a better place now. It's a wonderful world now. But anyway, let's talk about that. Why has it been launched outside of existing international frameworks?
Well, Delight, thank you. Thank you so much for this excellent question. And I will start mentioning that it was a very inspiring speech made by Donald Trump. As usual, he is speaking about the achievements within the first year of his second term, his presidency, and he spoke about the conflict which he helped to resolve. And you're absolutely right mentioning that he again highlighted that unfortunately United Nations could not achieve the results dealing with the conflicts all around the globe. And I would add that it's not only Donald Trump who is mentioning it, but there are some other leaders and heads of the states who are blaming United Nations for their failed missions in resolving the conflicts. By the way, President of Azerbaijan just recently attending the panel discussion in Davos also referred to the situation in our region, in situation in between of Armenia and Azerbaijan, when there were 4 resolutions of the United Nations Security Councils adopted in 1993, which unfortunately remained only on the paper. So there are a lot of concern about the work of the United Nations, but what is also important to mention here is that this new organization is not going to replace the United Nations. There were some concern explained by some member states of the United Nations and also members of the European Union who are afraid about the future of the United Nations, whether this initiative of Donald Trump is going to replace the existing institutions. But we cannot ignore the fact that United Nations is the only organization which is uniting all member states. It's a universal membership. Therefore, to replace this organization, as for now, it's almost impossible. Then United Nations has a legal standing and also many agencies that can operate at scale. So this is the first moment which I wanted to highlight. And coming back to the initiative of Donald Trump, yes, indeed, it has a global concern, it has a global implications, mentioning all the conflicts in the world, but the main and primary role is to deal with the situation in Gaza. Within the last years, we could see the scale of destructions there, and now the countries are willing to unite the efforts to bring more peace and stability to the region. Israel itself already adopted the decision to join the Board of Peace. By the way, officially, the idea itself was announced by Donald Trump as a second phase of the United States brokered 20-point Gaza ceasefire plan in September, and now the main idea, I guess, the main mission of this organization is to show its efficiency in the situation in between of Gaza and Israel. If it works, then probably, of course, it will attract more participants. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's more or less over 30 member states who agree to join the platform. But if it shows its efficiency in Gaza with Israel as well, then of course it will attract more global attention, and probably we should expect more member states to join and participate.
So, Anastasia, some countries have joined, others have refused. Does this already raise questions about the board's legitimacy?
There are some countries who express a concern, as I already mentioned, because they are not sure about the efficiency of this new platform, especially because of the United States has its veto right, meaning that the Board of Peace and the adopted decision for the future will have an improvement personally by the President of the United States. Now it's Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. So if he doesn't like any initiative, or he thinks that it will not have a right approach to the situation in any part of the world, then indeed he has a right, the veto right. So the countries like China and Russia, they are not, they decided not to join the platform at the moment. China is still thinking about this initiative, and Russia, as it was, the statement was made by Vladimir Putin, is ready to invest, as you yourself now, in order to have a to have a membership there, the permanent membership. You have to invest $1 billion, and as was mentioned by President of Russia, that if United States United States can use this money from the frozen asset of Russian Federation, meaning that Russia is also willing somehow to invest to the future. Then we also can understand the concern of Ukraine, which is thinking about the being a member of within this organization together with Russia and Belarus and other countries. But before it was mentioned that Volodymyr Zelensky is coming to Davos and he's going to have a meeting with Donald Trump. So probably later on we will have more about the position of Ukraine. So, but I will say it's a good start. It's a good start to have over 30 countries who are joining the platform. And specifically, I want to highlight the position of Azerbaijan, who was invited as a founding member state, because President Donald Trump also reaffirmed the significant achievement Azerbaijan is done in the region of the South Caucasus, especially the situation in between of Armenia and Azerbaijan. It's a good sample how the countries are moving from the war phase to the peace phase, working on the peace agenda, the development of logistics, energy cooperation, and so on. It's a good continuation of all of those achievements highlighted and stated in Washington, D.C. in August 8th, when two countries agreed to proceed further working on the peace agenda and peace plan in the region for the South Caucasus. So I guess it's a good start for the platform now. But how it will be developed, I already said, much will depend on the outcomes and consequences for Gaza, its people, reconstruction. So now they need more countries with a good background as Azerbaijan, with a peace agenda and experience in logisticals and development process.
So what Azerbaijan joined, but what does this signal about its broader diplomatic strategy and engagement with this US-led initiative, do you think?
Well, again, as Azerbaijan was joined as a founding member state, it's good that we have a chance to show more and to share our experience. Azerbaijan is a unique country. It has a good relations with the countries in the region, also in the Arab world. We have a great experience of leading the chairing non-aligned movement, and also we have a stable position in the Middle East, cooperation with the European Union from the energy and other perspectives. And two leaders, Donald Trump and President Ilham Aliyev, has an excellent friendly relations. Therefore, I guess it's a very good opportunity for Azerbaijan to use its regional and global position at the moment to make sure that all of those initiatives coming from the papers to the practical implementations. If Azerbaijan and Armenia already achieved it in our region, then we can somehow transform this from the papers to all of those global initiatives, which is going to be positioned by Donald Trump in the region of the Middle East. In this agenda, by the way, there are also such countries as the Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, The Pakistan also joined, and Turkey is also a NATO member state. So I guess here we have a unique place and unique number of participants with an excellent experience from different backgrounds, from the economic stance and also from the willingness and experience of resolving the conflicts, and willingness to participate from the financial side, because Gaza needs a lot of money for reconstruction and recovery. Participation of Israel and some Arab states make a platform for countries to negotiate and come up with a final solution. I would say that I spoke with some experts from Israel, and they expressed a concern about the future of Gaza with the presence of Hamas, because you yourself know what should come first, the reconstruction phase or the administration on how the Gaza will be ruled in the future, and what will be the stance of Hamas there, because Israel exclude any ways of cooperation with Hamas and with the administration there while Hamas is present. So now, yes, officially it's launched, and that's a good thing, but how it will come to the practical phase, how exactly the countries are going to negotiate and bring those, what should come first, administrative work, administration in Gaza, or the reconstruction phase. It's a very important moment, which I guess will be discussed later on within this Board of Peace organization, and then already, according to the structure, the founding executive board is going to implement the achieved results.
Okay. Anastasia, we've also got our colleague Orkan Amashov on the ground in Davos, and he's ready to connect with us as well. Orkan, you're there in Davos and you've been giving us updates consistently. So a very momentous occasion we just witnessed there. The Board of Peace is now launched, and we watched the signing ceremony as well. What can you tell us about the situation on the ground there and the atmosphere?
Hello, Dilek, and greetings to Anastasia. Indeed, today is a day of immense consequentiality. Although many critics of President Donald Trump and this particular initiative, which has been formalized, and the charter of the Board of Peace being signed at this very moment, reality is also telling that international legal order, the way we understood it before, is actually crumbling. And this particular initiative seems to be an alternative to the UN-led process, but it is not as simple as they may appear. I mean, the idea first, of course, we remember, all of us remember, and Anastasia does as well, of course, that the first way the idea was floated back in September by President Donald Trump. And then it was not so much about wider peace, not so much about the body dealing with wide range of international conflicts, but specifically designed to address the Gaza reconstruction. And that was the exact remit of the initial proposal. And when back in November 2025, UN Security Council adopted a resolution, I think, if memory serves me correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Dilek and Anastasia, I think it was 83.8 resolution, wherein it was said that UN supports this initiative, and this body will be operating before Palestinian Authority assumes its responsibilities in Gaza. But what is presented today is not simply about Gaza. Gaza is only part of the wider scheme. What President Donald Trump is saying is going to be Board of Peace, chairmaned by President Trump himself. Naturally, permanent membership will require $1 billion tax. So all the founding members are to pay this amount of money. There is a very interesting moment here. I suppose we need to reflect on it. This is happening against the backdrop of the failure of UN as an institution and a wide range of criticism levied against it. And simultaneously, this particular initiative is made at a time when President Donald Trump is talking about ending 8 wars, and actually a new model of international conflict resolution being proposed, and in many ways accepted by many countries, definitely by founding member countries. So it's a very, very consequential moment indeed. Well, a number of European countries, including France and Germany, rejected this proposal because they believe it goes against the grain of UN system, but UN system has been in tatters for some considerable time. So perhaps this will actually be able to induce, be source of injection of some sort of entrepreneurially driven peace resolution process. I think it is worth mentioning that President Donald Trump specifically mentioned President Aliyev of Azerbaijan and Prime Minister of Armenia as his friends. Naturally, he feels incredibly invested in the Azerbaijani-Armenian peace process, which was and is a bilateral process, by the way, with the exception of course, connectivity-related matter. But that is, of course, a different matter. We can reflect upon it a bit later. But ultimately, Iran, Armenia, many other countries find themselves as part of this wide initiative. But I would like to refer our audience and you to one particular passage from the letter sent by President Trump to President Aliyev, which was later accepted by Azerbaijan. There was a specific reference to UN Security Council resolution, and Azerbaijan received this letter as UN mandated initiative and accepted it on that basis. So Azerbaijani position, as far as my reading of the situation is concerned, is perfectly consistent with acting in line with international law and also supporting what President Donald Trump is proposing as board of peace. But allow me to add one more point about it, Dilek, because as I said, what was originally designed and proposed as a Gaza-related board is multidimensional now. We have proper board, where we have founding member, the heads of state and government of founding members, including Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. We got executive board, which will be dealing with a number of issues, including, and there on the board we have Tony Blair, we have US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and others. And there's a specific Gaza-related board which will be governing and overseeing the process of Gaza reconstruction. This is something very big and absolutely consequential. And President Donald Trump is also calibrating. I think his mention of United Nations having tremendous potentiality is not particularly in line with what he's earlier said about this international organization. And I also would like specifically, Dilek, Anastasia, highlight the way Trump changes language about Greenland. If earlier he was talking about outright overtake of this island, Arctic island, now he's saying that he would not use force, he would not use excessive force, but ultimately he's believed to get, he believes that the United States is poised to get what it wants to get. And my feeling is that, well, 1951 US-Denmark article and the treaty was literally giving the United States whatever they wanted, but probably they're going to have some sovereign military bases within the territory of this island without actually assuming full sovereignty over their Arctic island of Greenland. Something perhaps not so similar, but British overseas bases, military base in Cyprus, I think is a very good example how you can actually maintain security and protect yourself without assuming full sovereignty. It's an evolving situation, Dilek and Anastasia. We will be reflecting upon it during the course of the day, but it is very clear there are those who are unhappy, in particular France and Germany, and President Donald Trump has been exercising what he likes to do, at what he has been absolutely excellent. It is self-aggrandizement, but also a degree of consequentiality and importance for the sake of greater good of human civilization. After all, he believes that the world was on fire a year ago, and the world, our globe, is much better place, primarily thanks to him.
Okay, as you said, Orkan, I just want to ask you, while I've got you there, just one other question. You said a lot of countries have been made unhappy, in fact, by this Board of Peace. And the initial idea was reconstruction and redevelopment in Gaza, but it is becoming more and more, as you said, multidimensional and multifaceted. Several countries have declined to participate. Is this about objections to the plan itself or concerns about how and by whom it's being led?
I think there are two reasons, Dilek. One is there has always been, from the very beginning, a degree of unease and degree of frustration with this initiative as being too unilateral and being not treaty-based, not treaty-bound, because we don't have internationally legally accepted treaty forming the basis of this particular organization. I don't know what will be the legal status of this piece of board charter. Will it qualify as an international treaty? We can look at it at a later stage. This is number one. And number two, there is a feeling amongst the international lawyers and UN analysts and some of the heads of state and government that what Trump initially pitched as a Gaza-related and Gaza-specific reconstruction project and initiative and board now being actually transformed and elevated into international body dealing with all sorts of problems. And I'm sure some of the people at the UN will have objections. They will say that we did support back in November the process related to Gaza, and that UN Security Council resolution, I think 8308 resolution, was about Gaza, not about the wider peace remit. And they could be feeling among many people that they were misled by the remit of this organization. But it's happening before us, and many European leaders are here. All the NATO allies are here, and their objections are not necessarily outright objections. I mean, UK Foreign Secretary said something very fascinating, I think, just a few hours ago. It said that, you know, something along the lines, I can't remember exactly what was the quote, but, you know, there are some concerns about any board which is dealing with peace and Vladimir Putin being part of it. Basically, there are objections related to Russia, related to the circumstances on the battlefield circumstances in Ukraine. This is a very interesting formulation. So UK is United States of America's key ally within the European geopolitical scope, and even UK did not object in an outright fashion. This means that whatever we may think about the discrepancy between the original formulation, which was Gaza related, and the current formulation, which is wide-ranging, many European countries will eventually come to terms with this reality in one way or another. Critics of this plan, they are saying that it's a vanity project, it is a Mar-a-Lago extended court for President Donald Trump. But you know, those criticisms may have their own merits, but I think ultimately it is all about efficiency. What Trump is saying, basically, in basic contours, United Nations Security Council failed miserably over the past few years. This institution is not helping peace. It has got immense potentiality. And perhaps Trump-led, entrepreneurially driven process could yield some sort of outcomes. But it does, of course, raise fundamental questions about the future of the UN itself, about international order, about rules-based order, which is naturally collapsing if it has not collapsed already. And there are criticisms. But bearing in mind, it's happening here in Davos, 56th Forum, the World Economic Annual Forum. The international credence, in a sense, is already given to this initiative, whether critics like it or not.
Orkan, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for updating us with the developments there in Davos today. Anastasia, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your contribution as well. That's all we have for now on the Board of Peace and the launch. We brought you that live from Davos. We'll continue to follow developments from the World Economic Forum there. Stay with us. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we'll look at major stories from the region.